and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 17 of the Movie Mates podcast here. Welcome back with my co-host again, Connor Newton. And
Hello.
this week we have a different movie, a unique movie for everyone this week, and it's titled "This Is the End." And Connor, I believe this movie came out in 2013. I believe is the year.
Yeah.
And this was Connor's suggestion, and it was, let's just say, it was not a typical Connor movie pick. So Connor, I wanted to ask you, like, how did you come across this movie? How did you decide on this movie for this week?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
what's a typical Connor movie pick? What do you always imagine that the movies that I watch?
A typical Connor movie pick is a movie directed by some famous director, you know, some really world-renowned director, or some classic movie, you know, maybe 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. I think it's a classic.
I do
Connor
pick a lot of older movies that are critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so yeah, this definitely isn't the type of movie that I would go out of my way to watch on my own, and I haven't seen this movie before either. But the reason that I picked it is because I'm in a class right now at school that's basically centered around like writing in the film industry, but not like screenwriting. Writing is in like professional and technical writing, so like writing pitch letters, writing synopsises of scripts, writing story notes, a bunch of stuff like that, right? And the class is a semester long, and you are divided into 4 different groups based off of like, I mean, you can choose which group you're in, but each group is like their own production company, and each production company has like defining characteristics or whatever. The production company that I'm in for this class is a comedy production company. And the people who own it, like for the sake of the class, are Ken Jeong. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Craig Robinson. So the guy from this movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways, when we were talking about what we kind of want our company to do, people in my group, they're a lot more into like comedy films than I am. Like I like comedy, but it's not like I know there are people who are a lot more like, oh, they want to go into comedy films and stuff. And they kept talking about This Is the End. Like, oh, we want to make a movie that kind of has like this kind of feel maybe for our studio and stuff. And I was like, maybe I should watch this if I'm going to be doing like working in this class for the whole semester. And I thought, and then I like looked it up and I was like, oh, it's by Seth Rogen. And I think he does some pretty good stuff. And it's him and his buddies portraying themselves, but it's the end of the world. And I was like, that seems interesting. Like it seems like a lot of satire and like a lot of good opportunities to do some fun different things. And I was like, I'm just gonna choose a different movie because why not, right? Let's see. We always love the movies we pick. Let's see if we'll love this one too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so this definitely was different. So right when I saw that it had Seth Rogen in, I was like, okay, you know, I was already surprised because I was like, okay, I mean, this Seth Rogen, you know, they joked about this in the movie, but like he's kind of in like movies that are all kind of like the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's in those raunchy comedies.
Yeah, like the crude humor comedy movies. Yeah. So that's kind of his thing. So right off the bat, I was kind of I was surprised, but then as we get into the movie, and Connor, I'm kind of just easing us into the start of this movie as we go.
Go ahead.
But like the start of this movie, in the first maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I mean, I was taken aback. I mean, this cast is absolutely out of this. It was loaded. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. It might have been one of the most star-studded cast like I've ever seen in a movie. Like in just one set, you know, in like one like scene or sequence. I was like, I don't know, it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be like, I guess that's just like, they kind of had to do that for the sake of the story. That's like James Franco's having a party, like the real James Franco, you know?
Yeah, of course. And
but it was still weird too, because like, you know, they're acting, but it feels like this is how they might actually act together, but just like more caricaturized, if that's a word, you know?
Okay, sure, I understand. Like, you mean like it's more like I guess organized in a sense for like a camera, right?
Well, like for example, like Michael Cera, like I'm sure he's not actually like that like this
Oh.
total jerk who's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
only wants to like, you know, have sex and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But
Um,
I think that
that's the guy from Superbad, right?
yeah,
Okay.
he's that really like soft-spoken guy with
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the baby
yeah.
face.
They were
He's-
all of them from it were
yeah,
there.
I have actually been meaning to watch Superbad as well. So I haven't seen
You've
that
seen
yet.
you've seen it. You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Even wow! I finally seen a movie that Connor hasn't. I've seen that movie.
Oh,
So
dude, my roommates have been trying to get me to watch it, and I just
yeah,
haven't yet.
it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. That's what I knew him from, and the other there was one other guy who was from it, and Jonah Hill, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's where I recognized them from. And then there were just so many. There was Craig, right, or Daryl,
Yeah.
who I know him as Daryl from The Office.
Oh yeah.
Kelly from The Office. There were so many. Like there were so many. There was Rihanna.
Right. Yeah, Rihanna. You
Obviously
saw
Emma Watson. You know.
Oh yeah, Emma Watson,
Morris.
and you see the guy. Oh, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was
Yes,
in it.
Kevin Hart. What's his something? Aziz, right?
Aziz
from
Ansari
Parks
or
and
something
Rec.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was there.
Yep.
Sorry.
So there were a lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
Or
You
famous
see
actors and
Channing
actresses.
Tatum a bit later in the film as well.
You do, and yeah, this movie is a little crazy. So basically, you know, we see all these celebrities at James Franco's house. Connor mentioned it, but they go, Seth Rogen and
Jay.
his buddy Jay, who I guess he's known for a long time since he was a kid, which is actually true. He was actually friends with them.
Yeah,
as a
they're
child.
literally playing
They're-
themselves like
yeah.
with their own backstories and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So
So it was
Yeah.
really interesting. First off, like, how did you feel about like that? Like actually like playing yourself, like all of them, not just like not like one of them playing like themselves. You know what I mean? But like everyone playing like who
Yeah.
they actually are.
I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, it's like you can kind of see like a certain level, like even though it's such a fantastical film, you can sort of see a certain level of like realism in their characters because they are playing themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like even though the movie's so over the top and
It
the
is.
relationships are like probably extreme,
Yeah.
they probably have somewhat of that sort of dynamic in real life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I
Because-
mean, I think I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think like what it is like I'm sure like at least the main cast are like probably like good friends in real life, you know, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like, you know, it was easy for them to do this because like they just acted like the way they are, but I think it was just, you know, it was over dramatized or like over the top, you know. Obviously
Yeah,
for the-
yeah. And I
for the
think it
film.
helps too because I feel like James Franco in real life, even though he's not probably, you know, he's still playing a character in this movie,
Yeah,
but he still probably has that like attitude of like, oh, my art and like that kind of thing.
of course,
like,
yeah,
at least
yeah.
at a smaller level. And and
Yeah.
I think that they tried to like play up their own flaws and like take jabs at themselves, which was really fun.
Well, they
I
all
thought.
did, and we can get into that, right? Like, I mean, you talk about Jay, Seth Rogen's good friend,
Buddy,
right? He was
yeah.
like, he eventually said, like, you know, basically, like,
He's
was-
self-righteous.
Yeah, well, he was like, he was mad at Seth for like, you know, growing, but he didn't. Like, he was kind of like left behind in a sense. You
He's
know,
like Seth now has his Hollywood buddies, and he
Mhm.
feels like he's like
he's just left behind.
leaving him. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, a lot of these characters like had a similar thing to that. But you know, this movie wasn't really necessarily about like the development of the characters. It was more just, I think, seeing all of these famous people together in a movie, you know, and just having them like be funny, I guess, for the whole movie. It was really, I feel like what the movie was, which I thought it was. I mean, I thought it was fun. I thought it was like, you know, you mentioned that you're not the biggest comedy guy. Like you wouldn't go out of your way to watch comedy, like, you know, the comedy genre. And I am in the same boat, kind of. Like,
Yeah. Well, I
generally-
mean, you can get comedy in like a Marvel film, right? Like
Yeah,
even
of
though that's
course.
not a comedy, you can still get laughs in other films.
Yeah, so that when you know, I'm always more of like a, you know, I'll watch, you know, I'd rather watch like a sci-fi. I'm generic. I'd rather watch like a sci-fi or something like that. You know, that has some humor in it, but like I'm not looking for a movie
Yeah.
that's solely.
Well, I think with the comedies, like it's a lot more difficult to come up with a movie that's in the comedy genre that can be like actually called a comedy and yet still has a compelling story, right? Because a lot of times when people try and make comedies, it becomes more about like just trying to get the next laugh, you know?
Yes, no, 100%.
That's not always true, but that's a lot of times
If you're-
true with the average comedy, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, you know, this movie, obviously it was centered around comedy, but it also just got weird. Like maybe 20 or
Yeah.
25 minutes in. You know, I was like, oh, is this gonna turn to like a, you know, an action movie? You know, I thought it was gonna totally change, like you know, flip the script on us. And that's kind of what happened, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, when they
Seth and
leave the
Jay.
party, when Seth and Jay left the party, I initially thought that the party was over and they were going home. I forgot that they were going to like get a pack of cigarettes or whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew that this movie was going to turn into something about the end of the world, but I thought it was just going to be like a natural disaster or like an earthquake or something. It's like breaking down the whole world.
Sure.
And like James Franco's house is like somehow super sturdy and like able to, the only building surviving, so they have to like stay in there. I don't know. I didn't expect it to be so like supernatural and fantastical, I guess.
Sure.
Like when they're in the gas station and then the blue lights come down, I was like, oh dude, we're doing like aliens? This is like a sci-fi movie?
I was like,
I don't know
okay,
if that's
like,
what you thought.
100%. When the lights came down, I was like, okay, these people are getting taken up by like UFOs or something, right? Like they were going up, you know, getting captured by aliens or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna happen.
Okay, you know why I thought they weren't taken up?
Why?
I thought it was because they were intoxicated, and then the aliens like weren't able to recognize like if someone was like under the influence of something, they didn't know that a person was there.
Oh.
And I thought like maybe the cash register lady was like also like drinking alcohol on her shift, and maybe that's why she didn't get taken up as well.
Oh. I honestly thought it was totally random. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just thought it was totally random because I mean, looking back, like you can see why, you know, obviously why people were like taken up and why some weren't.
Yeah.
But you know, I thought it was totally random. I didn't see any rhyme or reason to it. But you know, I wanted to jump a little bit forward to when they go back to the party, right, and back to the house. Sure. And I wanted to focus on, you know, a point where Jay tells them about what happened. He's like, yeah, you know, there was literally like blue light that took people up into the sky. And he's like, Seth, you were there. You know, that's what happened, right? And he's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I didn't see that. I just thought that was.
Yeah, and he did, and he's literally lying.
He's lying, and you know, it adds to the conflict between the two, and this goes through the whole movie, right? And you could tell this is what was going to happen, right? You know, their friendship would be like tested, you know, through the movie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they're the main characters, right? Seth and Jay, and even though it's about the end of the world, I think the main like personal character conflict is between them, you know.
Yes. Yeah. No, I do agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it later towards the end of the movie, but I feel like they handled it like on a scale of like awful to like excellent in terms of like developing the characters and their conflict and their tension. I feel like they're somewhere around like the good level. Like they did an okay job with that.
What, you know? of handling like the two characters, Jay and Seth,
or of like
of developing that relationship,
of having like a character like relationship arc. Yeah. You know, I feel like they did a pretty good job with that. You know.
You know, I'll start off by saying I think that it's definitely the two of them, really the only people that have like an actual arc. I would say. I would say. I mean, we can get into that like as we go to the end, but
yeah,
I would really say, you know,
I mean, yeah, but this was a good scene though. That kind of sets the tension.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and you can you can tell there's tension. You can tell it's going to be a focus of the movie, right? Obviously, when you know, outside of the comedy, but basically that happens. No one believes them, and then right after that, right, you know, they realize there actually is something crazy happening, and they all go outside, and you know, everything's kind of burning, and you know, it's the end of the world.
And then a giant sinkhole opens up.
And stabs. You know the actor.
Oh, stabs name. Michael Cera.
Yeah, stabs him, and then you know a bunch of people kind of just like fell into the hole. It was really weird. They kind of just they kind of just fell in.
Yeah, dude. Okay. So when they're at the gas station or wherever they were, and the people get sucked up, and then there's like starts to be chaos, and there's driverless cars crashing into people and stuff. I was like, okay, this is pretty crazy, but I feel like this is typical Seth Rogen type stuff going on. right?
Yeah.
But then when Michael Cera got stabbed like through the thing, I was like, okay, this is extreme, because number
Yes.
one, that was like a pretty graphic like thing, and number two, Michael Cera just died, like a famous person, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, they're going to extremes with this movie, I
Yeah.
guess. And that's where that scene is like where I was like, oh man, you know.
Yeah, and from there you're like, okay, this movie, it was just a little crazy. I mean, throughout the scene, they had a bunch of celebrities die. I mean, they had Kevin Hart fell into the pit. You know, Rihanna. You know, a bunch of people. You know, died. You know, in the movie. It was kind of I don't know. You know, I guess it was a way to get rid of the celebrities. You know, because obviously not all of them were going to be in the whole movie. I think it, you know, it's just a way for them to get rid of them and not have them be in the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
but,
and I guess a way to like show the stakes as well.
Yeah, sure. But the whole time, and I don't know about you, and this goes for comedy movies in general. I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the stakes, you know, when you talk about stakes, like I don't feel them really as much, you know, or really. I only feel them a little bit, you know.
You mean with comedy movies in general?
Yeah, and specifically this movie as well. I mean, you went to this one. I just felt like, you know, I saw like, you know, a celebrity die. I was like, okay, I don't know. I just don't feel, and it makes sense, at least in my mind.
Yeah,
because,
well,
you know,
I mean, they treat it so like
nonchalantly, like just
like, oh, they're dead now, like whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of like the point.
Yes,
is that it's supposed to be funny that they're treating it so nonchalantly, like this is a big deal, but they're not, that all these people are dying, but we as audience members are supposed to really only care about like Jay and Seth's survival for the most part, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people do like that. A lot of people think like, oh, that's funny that these celebrities are dying, because like I know them in real life and they seem so like untouchable, and like it doesn't really work as well for me though, because I feel like death is like a serious subject, and I know that they're trying to make light of a lot of serious subjects in this movie, but it's a little bit difficult for me to laugh at that type of stuff personally, you know.
I understand that. I also think that from a general audience perspective, I think a lot of people enjoy movies where they don't really need to feel super invested, you know, or like care a lot, right? I think that a lot of people feel that way. So when they have movies like this where you can just kind of like sit back and just not really care one way or the other and just kind of like, you know, have fun, I think a lot of people enjoy that. I do agree with you. Like I personally, you know, I like to, you know, feel a little more gravity, you know, behind things like that, you know, generally. So that's, I agree with you there, but I think a lot of people, obviously, like I think they just enjoy like the ability to not really.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think that's kind of the audience that they're trying. I think that's the audience they're trying to appeal to, and I also think that that's not a bad thing, because that type of audience isn't going to seek out other types of films, and so when you have films like this that you can just sit back and relax and watch and have fun.
Yep.
That's a good opportunity for the filmmakers to try and incorporate some sort of message that, you know, most people might not see, because they might not go and watch other films that you aren't going to get more emotionally invested in, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. But you know, from here, Connor, what happens after this? You know, there's just a lot of chaos, right, for a while, and then
well, I mean, they go in and they
get back into the house.
And they kind of plan out like how much food and water they have and everything, and like what their resources are.
Yep.
And they have that scene where they're like waving around the loaded gun.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Dude, I thought one of them was gonna shoot the other.
I 100% did. I 100% did. I was like kind of like tense. I was tense the whole time. I thought someone was
me too.
Shoot.
And props to the cast and the filmmakers for doing that too, because like that was like one of the scenes where I was like, you know, what's gonna happen.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, in this movie you don't get a lot of that. I feel like a lot of times in this movie I was like, okay, like I kind of like guessed what was gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
but in that scene I agree with
I mean,
you.
Especially towards the end.
Towards the end, I agree, although I thought it was going to be reversed for like a different reason.
We
So
can talk about that in
we
a little
can
bit.
we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But
I understand what you're saying though, that you felt like
yeah.
there were not that many moments where you were like unsure how the scene was going to play
Yeah,
out.
there weren't a lot of moments where I was tense, like, oh man, like what's he gonna do? Like what's gonna happen? You know? And
Yeah.
there were a few times, but there weren't a lot of those, which again is to be expected in a movie like this. I guess, right? A more laid back, not relaxing film, but less tense film, less intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one comment, Connor, if you don't mind, I just thought it was funny. And it kind of encompasses like why they're still on Earth at this point in time. Craig said, like, I tried to save Aziz, and he was crying. He's like, I tried to save him, I couldn't save him. And it was like, you didn't try to save him.
No.
Said it was too late, and like kicked him off. Like he didn't even, you know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of fun. I thought that was,
Yeah, and
a nice little thing that they slid in there.
I
right?
mean, we kind of, yeah, and they come to the conclusion later, right, that the reason they didn't get sucked up, or all those other celebrities didn't get sucked up into heaven, is because like they weren't good enough, right?
Yeah.
Or they've done like bad things in their lives. They don't deserve to go.
That they
heaven.
Don't regret. Yeah.
And I just thought it was and I just thought it was interesting that like literally no one in James Franco's house went to heaven, right? Like all these celebrities are like not good people,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that
I just thought that was interesting that the movie made that choice.
I know, I agree. I think it made that choice because I think it was making or at least a point that a lot of them are like self-centered. I think was a big thing, right, in this movie with a lot of the characters.
I agree.
Not necessarily selfish.
Yeah.
I think there's a slight difference between selfish and self-centered. Like they just like they think about everything from like how it affects them and how it makes, you know what I mean? And I think that was kind of something we saw in a lot of them at the start and even towards the end, like with some of them, I thought. So I thought that was a big theme there.
Yeah, and I think well, okay. They go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
After that, and they're like talking, and they're like, they all come into the same room and sleep in the same room, right?
Yeah. Except for James Franco, right? He stayed in his bedroom.
Yeah.
All by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you find out in the next morning that Danny McBride is there. He's in the bathtub sleeping.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, Connor, I was to say, forgive me if if I'm like being ignorant, but what has he been in the past? Like
okay, really yeah, I was looking that up too. I do recognize him, but I couldn't remember what I had recognized him from.
Okay.
Okay. He's in other movies with these guys. He was in Pineapple Express, Tropic Thunder.
Oh, he was in Tropic Thunder. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and he's also in Alien Covenant, the newest Alien movie from 2017.
Oh, is he really? Okay.
Yeah. And then he also does voice acting like for Despicable Me and Kung Fu Panda and like Angry Birds and stuff.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So I just wasn't sure what he had been in. So thank you. But sorry, you were saying something. Continue. Like
what was I saying?
I think you were talking about what was happening. So he ended up being there in the house.
Yeah. So the reason I brought that up is because you were talking about how they were self-centered, and then this next part of the movie, we get introduced into Danny McBride, who is like the embodiment of the self-centered, right?
Yes, he is.
And I feel like he represents how they all want to act, but they feel like they can't because they know it's not right. Mm-hmm. But they want to act like that. You know what I mean?
Well, because I would say they're used to acting like that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Maybe not as dramatic, but right, they're used to kind of just doing whatever they want, eating whatever they want, whatever,
Yeah.
And that was kind of that was he he was I found him quite annoying, which was the point of his character, I think, but
he was pretty awful, but it's not like he was evil, right? It's just like he wasn't. He had these vices that I think a lot of people suffer from.
No, yeah, 100%. But the difference is like he didn't hide them, right?
Or he didn't even make the effort to. He didn't make the effort to try and make the right choices.
And that's frowned upon in society, and rightfully so, right? Like not even giving in any effort
Yeah.
to be better, right? So yeah, no, definitely. So he was he was a nuisance the entire movie. And he didn't even know, right? So he didn't even know that all this had happened. Correct? He didn't
No.
even know that everything that happened
No.
outside, was going on, that the earth was burning, that everything was going to the end. He
Yeah,
didn't even
no.
know. And he didn't
Yeah.
realize until that one guy came to the door and died right at their door. And I found it funny that none of the animals or demons that were outside never went into their house for like the longest time. But
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But do we want to talk about that scene at all where they don't let that guy in? And
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
that first of all, it begins like where he made breakfast using up most of their food, and they're like really mad at him, and they're trying to explain to him why that's not good, and he's like, "Nah, what? You're lying," basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he didn't believe him.
Yeah, and when that guy peeked his head in, I was like, I thought, I don't know. I kept changing my mind during that scene. I was like, are they gonna let him in? Are they not gonna let him in?
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't sure.
But like James Franco and Jay were disagreeing, and I thought that Seth was gonna go with what James Franco was saying, so they weren't gonna let him in. That's what I thought.
And that was the theme throughout the movie, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you. But like I feel like Seth chose to do or agree with a lot of what James Franco said or did throughout pretty much the entire movie, I would argue.
Yeah.
Right? That was kind of a theme, which kind of obviously clashed with Jay, because Jay didn't really like him, didn't like any of those people really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And Jay was like, he was like saying things that were more, like, I guess kind to other people than what James Franco might be saying.
Mm-hmm.
And like he was saying, no, we gotta let this guy in, like we can't let him stay out there.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was kind of like, well, like he is acting like a good person. I felt like, at least in the big decisions. The only way, like I don't know, I guess I felt like it didn't seem like Jay was that bad of a guy to have been left on Earth.
I agree, but I think that they left him on Earth because he was a liar, I guess. Like he was lying.
And I guess he was also
friend,
Yeah, and I guess also like the way he like treated Seth's other friends in this like jealous way.
Yeah, and he was being judgmental, right? So like righteous.
He was being judgmental, yeah. And like I guess envy is one of the 7 deadly sins, right? So
yeah, that's true. But so yeah, that scene was interesting because to me, I thought that, if you put yourself in that position, the vast majority of people who would be asked what you would do, the vast majority of these people, Connor, would not let the guy in. I am almost sure of it. I bet most of the
You mean in real life?
Yes. If people were in that situation, I bet most people would not let that guy in. Or they would try not to. Because, and this movie tries to come at that and kind of say like that's not the right thing to do. And it's not, but it's
like me personally,
this whole self-preservation idea is like right? It's a center idea of people, whether they like it or not.
I guess so. But I feel like it depends on like who I would be with also, right? Like if I'm with my family, I feel like you know what I mean? Like if I was with my parents, I feel like I would be more inclined to let the guy in because I like my parents are here, like we outnumber him,
Maybe.
If it was me and my siblings, I would not let him in because like I feel like it's my responsibility to protect my siblings.
That is a fair statement. Yeah, it depends on who you're with, right? And
yeah,
no, that's fair. But I still think that most people wouldn't let him in, and maybe that tells you about people in general. Maybe that tells you, right? I don't know, but I just found that interesting. Right. And the movie tries to kind of like say like that you shouldn't do that, but
and
at the same time you're looking out for yourself and your closest friends or family, right? So it's a tough situation.
I think that this movie, like, it's not trying to think about these types of choices in such a complex way, but it does like address them, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, of course. And I'm taking this to an extreme, right? I mean, I'm sure like most people who watch the movie aren't thinking about this.
No, but I mean, I think the filmmakers were thinking about it, and that's why they made that satirical choice, right? That's why they
Yeah.
That's why they take all these things to the extreme, because they're trying to like make fun of society and like how people would act in this situation. I feel like, you know?
Yes, and they mask it as humor, or mask it. They make it humorous, but still address these issues, right? Or
Yeah.
conflicts. Yeah.
And then the guy's head gets chopped off, and they're like kicking it around, and like blood is spraying everywhere. That was one of the
Yep.
scenes that was like a little bit too much for me. I was like, this is just kind of gross.
Mhm.
Like it's not really like
Yeah.
funny. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I guess some people find it funny. Yeah, I don't either. Like just a ton of blood. Like, it's nasty.
Yeah.
But after this, I want to address the main really is the main like plot of the movie, which is Jay brings up the Bible and the Book of Revelation, right? Soon after this, and he's like, this could be the end of the world, right? And that's kind of addressing the title of the movie. This is the end. And where the earth becomes like forsaken, and it just becomes like just like a burning landscape, and all the good people who God deems good and worthy,
everybody
get taken up to heaven. Yep. And so I mean that ends up being what happened, right? And so you recognize that pretty quickly, or soon after, if you hadn't, right, when he mentioned it. But that ends up being what happened. And I guess if you're still worthy, God will still take you up, if you deem yourself worthy after the initial fact,
Yeah.
So I guess, for the sake of the plot, right, they still had a chance to go up to heaven, right?
Yeah. And that was an interesting conversation too, because James Franco brought up the fact like, oh, if you're right, Jay, that means you're not worthy either. You're just as bad as the rest of us.
That was I like that.
Yeah.
Because he always thought of himself as righteous, right? Better than them. And he realized there, he's like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I forget what happens at that point. Is that when Emma Watson breaks in?
Around there, yeah. They all get on a bunch of drugs, and then after that wears off, then Franco gave Seth Rogen a little, like, a cracker, and he's like, don't tell anyone.
Oh yeah.
He had like the extra food stash, which I almost didn't catch, because right after that they went on a bunch of drugs, and I was like, what did he give him? A bunch of like extra? I didn't know what he gave him. But then like later I realized that
it was crackers, because he said something about like cheese and crackers.
Yeah, so. he did. Yeah, I remember. But anyway, yeah, so Emma Watson shows up, and I didn't expect her to come back, I'm going to be honest. But she comes back, she's like, oh my gosh, everyone's alive, wow. And she's just swinging around an axe like nothing, right? And it reminds me of the gun scene. And she's just kind of, I just, something, when you're swinging around an axe, something's a little up, I just thought like, what's gonna happen? Like I thought something might happen. I didn't think something would happen as soon as it did, because basically what ends up happening is Emma Watson just gets really angry. And swings the axe at all of them and then leaves.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, okay, so first of all, Emma Watson is still alive, which means that she's like bad too, right? Which Emma Watson is like the best person ever, like, at least based off of like public knowledge and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then they like offer her to go up and rest upstairs, and they're like, oh yeah, that's good. And then they have that conversation where Jay's like, okay guys, we want to make sure like Emma Watson is like
she's
super
comfortable. Yeah,
around all these guys. And they're like, what do you mean? And like obviously the audience knows where this conversation is going, right?
Sure.
And it seems like these guys are just playing dumb just to like make Jay say like what he's getting at, basically. Sure. And then like they have this argument where they're all like accusing each other of being like the most predator-ish or whatever, right?
Yeah, and they're all doing this right outside of her door.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I felt like I know that they're supposed to be like dumb and sort of like, I know that they're supposed to be like these comedians who are goofy and do all this like weird stuff. And but I felt like that was like so like, even though that was like not as extreme as some of the other stuff that happened, I felt like it seemed too unrealistic for a real person to act like a real person wouldn't be that dumb to be saying those things like right outside of her door. And then when she comes out and she's like angry at them swinging their axe, the way that they acted to try and calm her down, I'm like, I feel like no real life person, like I know they're supposed to be like not real people, they're supposed to be like caricatures and stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I agree with that. I kind of feel like that's
Maybe
why.
I just wanted Emma Watson to be in the movie longer.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these celebrities, I wanted them to be in it longer. Like I know there's a lot of them, but I wanted them to be in it a little longer. And obviously not all of them can, and
Yeah.
most of them can't. But yeah, I agree. I think that's why I'm not always a big fan of like these raunchy comedies, because like I feel like they play themselves to be so dumb. Like it just they dumb it down so far that it's just so hard for me to be like you know what I mean? It's just so hard for you to be like, oh, like
Yeah, because you
haha,
still
like,
want to relate to the characters too, right?
yes. And that's an issue for like, everyone based on movies, right? Like if you can relate to characters in a movie, and we've talked about this, Connor, how like it's important for movies, at least most movies, a lot of movies, to have like a character in a film that like most of the audience can relate to in some way.
Yeah.
And at least for you and I, at least for right, like I feel like they just played that so, and it's a theme throughout this movie, right? Like they play sometimes so dumb that it's just hard,
But I do think that it was a good choice on that note to make Jay the protagonist, right? Because I think Jay is the most relatable out of all those celebrities, right? He feels like the most like the rest of us.
I don't know if he is. I don't know if necessarily he's like the rest of us, but he, for the most part, acts the way that we would want ourselves to act.
Yeah.
You know what I
He
mean?
has that kind of mentality that like we believe we would be the right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And but in reality, we also have flaws, which is this character too, which I think we can relate to. And he also feels like an outsider amongst all those celebrities, which I think we can also sort of relate to as well.
Yes,
So,
I do agree with that. Yeah. And well, I'll move on to that later, actually, because it's at a later point in the movie. But basically, yeah, Emma Watson swings her axe. She hits Seth Rogen in the nose, and it doesn't even cut his nose. I was really confused about that.
He was bleeding. He had like a nose bleed. But
yeah, but
I mean,
it was weird. Like it did. I thought it would like chop part of his nose off or something. Like it was an axe.
Well, it was the bottom half of the axe.
Oh, are you sure? Was it really?
Yeah, she turned it around and then she like boom like that.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. I thought she was swinging it like actually like sharp side.
But I mean, it's still a big axe. I feel like it would still break his nose too.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, right? But so she seems like she's flying off the handle. So she, right? She ends up leaving,
and she takes their
water.
Their water. Excuse me. Yeah.
So she takes all their water, and they need to get their water. They need to get more water. And James Franco's like, yeah, I have some water in the basement, but you have to go outside and unlock like a hatch to go.
Oh, speaking of which, I did like the scenes where they kind of had like it was sort of Office or Modern Family like, where they like had these little like
the camera
video recordings with like little interviews, and it was like a grainier, so like they're recording it on a camcorder or whatever.
Yeah,
but I did like those where we had like input from the individual characters.
I agree. I did like that as well. I thought that was good. I thought it was good because you got like, it was the one time where you got like character insight like into like their
like
thoughts.
how they each think and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, you were talking about how they have to they have to get the water from the basement.
Yeah, so they had Craig go do that, right? And he was like he was on like I guess like a rope. I don't know how that was really going to work. I don't know how they're going to pull. I don't know why pulling him back would be quicker than just running back. But anyway, he was on a rope to go out there, and basically he didn't make it to the water. He didn't make it. He went back. He made it back.
Couldn't open
the latch in time. Yeah. And he went back, and he made it back in. He's like, and basically, they had to stop whatever it was that was outside. Some sort of demon thing from getting in. And this is what I thought it was. I just thought it was funny. Like it was just like it played off that like dumb part of these characters, but it was just funny. They're like, someone throw me a knife, and Jonah Hill just picks up a knife and literally just throws it.
Dude, I could totally see that.
I could 100% see it coming, but I thought that was funny.
The fact that he said the words "throw me a knife," okay, dude.
Like,
that part was kind of funny. I kind of thought that was.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I thought that was funny as well. So, just straight stab Jay in the leg. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
But so that happened, and then basically they think the only way to get to the water is to like whack the concrete floor and break through it.
Oh yeah, because James Franco's like, it's like right here.
Yep. And eventually they do, right? Eventually they do.
Yeah. I don't know how long it took them. It was like they didn't really give a clear sense of time passing. Like I know they were there for like
I
a
thought it was
few
a few
days at
days.
least, but
I thought it was a few days.
um, yeah. And I'm not actually sure how difficult it would be to like knock through a floor like that with the tools that they had.
It would take a
You know what I
while.
meuld
It would take quite some
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it would, I
I
think it
mean,
would
there
take a
was
while.
rebar in there as well. I don't know if you could see that.
Mm, I don't know if I saw that, but
Yeah.
regardless, it would, I think it would take a while. So that, that took place, right, and they got the water, and it was like, yay,
Yeah.
right, and it was
And
great,
also like they ratcheted up the tension between James Franco and Danny McBride a little bit. When they had like the argument about the porno magazine and they were just like yelling.
Yeah.
Like,
and we also saw the
obviously
video of James Franco talking about Danny.
Oh yeah, that's true. I feel like even though it's kind of a dumb argument to have in the situation that they were in, you could kind of, I think you were still more on James Franco's side. Like you're like, yeah, what Danny McBride was doing is kind of gross and like wrong.
Yes. Yeah, of course. I think the reason James didn't like Danny in this movie is because Danny represented all like the worst, like the worst sides of him. I feel like.
Yeah, and he didn't have any respect, right? They're in James' house, and they're like,
yes.
Yeah. And I just thought that conversation, even though it seems like who cares? Like it's just his magazine or whatever, right? At the same time, it's like they're getting so heated about it, and you kind of just really see how self-centered like they both are, I think. In that conversation. I just thought that was an interesting scene. I don't know if I like it or not, but
well, I like the scene after, right? It was after, which is they have the water and they're all like cheers and they ration it out, and then Danny just like takes the whole. It was annoying.
Yeah, and he doesn't even try and hide it too, right? He's just like he doesn't even care.
He just doesn't care. He doesn't care. That's the thing, is he didn't care. And at that point,
and then they tell him to stop, and then not only does he go back for another water, but he starts like pouring it on himself and stuff. And at that point, that's like actually crazy because he's like making it like worse for himself too, like actually wasting water, right?
Yep. It just didn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So it got to a point where they're like, okay, we need to kick him out, right? We need to get him out. And they kind of agree to that, and he basically doesn't argue with him. He's like, yeah, like I'll leave, and then but
he like acts like he's trying to get sympathy too at the beginning.
No, I know, yeah. He did it well, right? And because he wanted sympathy and he got it, and Franco's like, okay, you can go out there, I'll give you a gun, to help you,
dude. Okay.
And he takes the gun and you knew.
Why would he give him the gun instead of some other type of protection, right? Like,
but he gave him the gun on purpose, I think. I think he wanted to see what would happen because he knew there weren't actual bullets in there.
Yeah.
But Danny
I expected
tried
that
to kill all of them.
Okay, I expected that there was going to be actual bullets.
I thought there were bullets, but he must have taken them out. Was my understanding.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that there were going to be real bullets when he handed him the gun. I thought he was just being dumb, and I thought that but I didn't think he was going to try and kill him. I thought he was just going to be like, all right, now y'all have to do what I say. I thought that's the way that the movie was going to go.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, I thought it was going to play out how it did. I thought there would be real bullets. I thought he was going to shoot one of them. I didn't think he tried to shoot all of them, which he tried to do. And then basically, like, they kind of are like, wow, like, why did you? I can't believe you would have done that. And then he leaves. And as he left, he created more of a rift between Jay and Seth. He talked about how Jay stayed the 4 seasons instead of going to Seth's house because he didn't want to be with Seth and his buddies. So I guess it just creates more of a rift there.
Yeah, but I feel like that kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like, of course, like Danny knows that information.
Yeah, Jay, but it also fits his character. Like, of course he's gonna do that on his way out, create more chaos. Like, of course he's going to. Like, he was just kind of the chaos character.
I guess so. Yeah, and I know like Jay shouldn't have lied to Seth, but I didn't feel like it was that big of a deal that he came to LA. I mean, I guess like he should have told Seth he was there. It wasn't the fact that he didn't stay with him so much as he just didn't tell him he was there, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't that big of a deal in reality. I do agree with that.
Mhm. And especially given like what was going on around them, I felt like Seth like took it way too personally, given the situation they were in.
Yes.
That's just my opinion.
But you know, they needed to do that for the sake of this, you know, pushing the story, right? That's what kind of had to take place.
Yeah.
But regardless, that's what happens. And basically, what we get after this is, you know, I guess Jonah Hill hated Jay with a passion. He wanted him to die.
Okay.
That was out of the blue to me.
I feel like it was because he said like at that point after Danny leaves, Jonah Hill was like, Jay, I'm so disappointed in you, because he found out he was a liar or something like that. And he thinks at that point he's like, Jay's an awful person. I did feel like it was out of the blue, right? But it's like that one like little thing that Jay did now makes him feel like that, or did he always feel like that? You know,
that's a great question. I think that he always felt like that, but it gave him an excuse to feel like that when that was revealed to him. Does that make sense?
I suppose so, but it just felt so out of character for the way Jonah Hill had been acting, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe it's supposed to be like, oh, he's hiding, he's just pretending to be a nice guy, but he's not really a nice guy.
That's what Jay thought.
Yeah. And I guess that was sort of true.
I mean, sort of. But like, you know, what ends up happening makes it kind of irrelevant, right? I mean, Jonah Hill basically ends up getting possessed by a demon, essentially, is what occurs.
Yeah, and that was kind of a weird scene when the demon came to him, first of all.
Yeah, that was weird.
And he's like,
yes.
And the demon had
a
very accurate anatomical structure.
Yeah, and that was part of the humor of the movie. So
yes, I suppose so. But then he was like fine sort of the next day, right?
Kind of. But then he had that scratch on his arm. Remember?
Yeah. When they were deciding who was going to go to the neighbor's house and get food and water.
Yep. So then it really goes downhill from here. And basically what happens is, Jonah Hill collapses. You know, they think he's having some sort of like low blood sugar, and that ends up not being the case. He ends up being possessed by a demon. But first, sorry, you can go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say that Jay and Craig go over to the neighbor's house after Seth Rogen refuses to go. He says, I'm not going. And that triggered me, dude. Like, if we were like drawing like matches and someone's like, no, I'm not going, I'd be so mad, dude. I'd be like, literally, whatever. I'm just gonna go.
Yep. I would be mad as well. And you know, this turns, Connor, we can talk about this. This turns to one of the most interesting parts of the movie for me. Is it might be one of the only times we see Jay, you know, really, be selfish. And it's when we see all the food in that neighbor's house with him and Craig, and he's like, why don't we stay? You know, we don't need to go back. We can keep all the food for ourselves. And it was just, you know, it was interesting because you didn't see that side of him very often, but you know, it was there. It was there, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was so much necessarily about the food as much as he just didn't want to be around other people.
No, I would agree. That's definitely what it was.
Yeah.
Right. It was definitely
which not wanting to be around people is like an okay thing, but not if it's because you think you're better than them, or if it's because, or in this situation, like you have the resources to provide them with food or whatever, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting kind of situation, right? And right, like I said, simultaneously, Jonah Hill's chasing them around as a demon.
Yeah, he becomes a demon.
In the other
and then
house.
there's an actual demon in the neighbor's house that's chasing Jay and Craig.
Yep. Yep.
Special effects in this movie are okay. They're not great, but they're okay. The special effects, you know,
fine.
Comedy.
I mean, honestly, it was about what I expected. I didn't expect high quality special effects from a comedy film. So it was about what I expected. But, you know, the next thing that I want to talk about was the exorcism that they tried to do, which I thought was kind of funny. You know, they played off the Exorcist a little bit, and it was going to work, by the way. It was going to work. And then
it was going to work. I thought that was kind of a funny scene too, the way that the demon was talking to him through Jonah Hill's body, like, "Oh, does the power of Christ compel me?" Like, I thought that was
and then it
actually
started to. Yeah. And then they started a fire. They burned down the whole house.
Wait, why did the fire start? It was because
Seth and Jay were fighting, and they knocked something into a curtain, like a candle or
So
something.
wait, did Seth stop Jay from doing the exorcism? I forget.
Yes, he did.
Oh, why did he do that? I don't remember why he did that.
He did it because he was mad at him about the Four Seasons thing. It wasn't even like relevant to what was happening.
Okay, whatever.
So that it was like, okay, it was an excuse to get another like action sequence going, right? Is kind of what happened.
Yeah, and then they find out that James Franco has a bunch of food, but the house is now burning.
Yeah, so it was whatever. And then Jonah Hill dies. He burns like Anakin.
He catches
style.
on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of like, even though it was over the top, when the burning Jonah Hill like jumps off of the second floor stairs. Like, honestly, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. He was like crawling, like as he was burning. Yeah, I thought that was funny. But then, everything moves pretty quickly from this point on, and they
leave the house basically.
They leave the house. They try to escape, and basically Craig decides to sacrifice himself to let them escape and distract the demon. And as he does that, he's about to get killed, and he gets saved by God, and he gets taken up to heaven.
Into heaven.
And they all realize, like, wow, we can still be saved.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting to me because, to me, the only person that deserved to go to heaven was Craig at this point on.
Yeah.
Because from this point on, everyone knows you can go up. He didn't know. He was ready to actually sacrifice himself and die. Yeah. The other people, however genuine they might have done things later on, they were just, they knew.
They still believed that they could.
Yeah.
I even believed they knew that it was possible. Yeah.
So,
which... Well, because there's a thing, right? Like, were there good people in the world who didn't believe that they would be saved, but still were saved? You know what I mean?
I suppose, right?
Whereas, like some people who didn't even think about God who were saved, but other people who believed that they would be saved, like genuinely believed that they would, as much as James Franco and Seth Rogen and Jay believed they would be saved at the end.
Probably. I don't know. It depends. Like, if you think that the only people that were taken up initially were like straight, like believers.
Yeah, I did have that same thought though that you did. That was like, oh, like, are they even capable of genuinely sacrificing themselves or doing things like that? Like, is that even something they're capable of if they believe, if they know that will allow them to go to heaven?
And I guess the answer was yes. I guess I guess I believe it. We can.
Yeah, James Franco was sacrificing his life to save. He was, even no matter like what he thought was going to happen, he was giving up his life.
He was, but he ended up, obviously, giving him all the finger and ended up, messing it up, and he got eaten. So, he ended up getting eaten by Danny and this crew, who Danny really embraced this evil,
Yeah, he did. I didn't think he was like that, like evil, and it still seemed like he was like, he got hit in the face by something. I think, I don't remember if it, right? Did James Franco or something hit him in the face?
Oh, maybe he hit him with I think he hit him with something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a baseball bat. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like such a crybaby about it. And I was like, this is weird that he's like, so like, I think it's supposed to be funny that he's like this evil overlord, but he's like so hurt by being hit one time or something.
When it happened, when we first got introduced to him here, and we only saw like the feet, and it was like the entrance, like the rock and roll music.
It was gonna be him,
I was like, I wanted it to be a different celebrity though. I was like, please, I want like someone like
I wanted it to be Channing Tatum. That's what I wanted it to be. But then Channing Tatum was just like the guy, like his slave. I was like, what the heck?
It's like, okay. I wanted it to be someone different. It was just the same guy. It was just Danny. So I was a little let down by that, maybe because like I haven't really seen him in other stuff. I don't know. I was just hoping for someone else. But anyway, we get this whole scene where James Franco sacrifices himself for Seth and Jay, and then he ends up actually dying because he, was just not being.
He's being a sore winner. Essentially, he was being rude. He was.
Yeah, he got arrogant at the end. He's like, haha, like I beat you all, and that's obviously that didn't happen. So.
Yeah,
I guess, he dies, and it's down to Jay and Seth, as we talked about at the beginning. These are the main characters, right? This is what it would come down to. I kind of thought this was going to happen. And Connor, we can kind of get to this last part here. And I want to tell you what I thought was going to happen going in. Going in, I thought that Seth would get saved. I thought he would end up like sacrificing himself. And then I thought Jay would be like, like I'll stay behind. Like I thought Jay was gonna be the one to stay behind. I thought he was gonna be like, like they're gonna talk it out. Like they did talk it out. They're like, yeah, like like you're my best friend, blah, 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 all that stuff. I thought it was gonna be
Yeah.
like, I thought Jay was gonna be the one to like stay behind, and Seth was gonna be the one that got to go up to heaven, but it ended up being the reverse.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting that you thought that, because I kind of expected Jay to be the one, because Jay was the one who had to admit to himself like how he was really feeling and stuff like that, and how he was acting.
I agree, but I also thought Jay was like, this might be contrary to how it works, but I thought Jay was going to be like I thought he was setting himself up for a sacrifice. I thought he was going to be like the better, I thought he was going to like take one for like his best friend, like Seth, like, like, I don't know. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I don't really know how they could have made it so that Seth would be going up to heaven without like sacrificing himself.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think the way they did it was pretty good, right? Like
it was well written, I think, at least how
this end part.
Yeah.
Like I thought Seth was going to get left behind. I really did.
Even if it was a bit predictable, like once he started like going up in the air.
Yeah.
And he's like holding his hand, and there's like this demon chasing them. I was like, all right, what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to get up. Seth's going to fall down, but that's going to make him go up too. Like,
Yeah. No,
I don't know. I just felt like the ending was pretty predictable. Even the part with James Franco where he's like, when he sacrificed himself and he said that first insult to Danny McBride, I'm like, it's gonna get canceled.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
I knew when Seth was getting dragged up by Jay, I knew like it wasn't gonna work. I just you knew it wasn't gonna work.
Yeah. Or even when Craig sacrifices himself, I was like, as soon as Craig said he was gonna sacrifice himself, as soon as he said those words to them, I was like, oh, he's gonna go up to heaven.
Really?
Like, once they left the house, I felt I
actually didn't expect that.
Yeah. I don't know.
At first, well, because I like from that before that point we hadn't really known, right? Like that they would.
No, but the way that they were talking about it and like what we had seen with the demons and everything up to then, I just felt like it seemed very biblical, and that's kind of like what they said. They weren't going to introduce some weird twist. I felt like, or like they weren't going to actually just have Craig Robinson die. I didn't think so. At least,
Yeah. No. I guess I get that. So this is how it ends, right? And we talked about this.
Well, they go up to heaven, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought this was fun. This is cool. And they go up to heaven, and it's just chill. They're all angels, I guess. They can do whatever they want. And it's just one like chill. It looks like they're like Roman or something, and they're all wearing like white. They're all partying in like some clean, like outdoor like garden or like a thing. Like I just thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was cool. And I guess Jay, you can wish for anything you want. I guess he wished for the Backstreet Boys, right?
Yeah.
And
I thought that was weird.
I thought that was weird too. But did you know that they won an award, I think, for like best musical moment, like in a film in a film that year, and it was that moment.
Interesting.
I was like, okay. I looked it up. I looked something up about the movie, and I saw that. I was surprised.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, so I guess I thought it was a fun ending. It was a fun ending.
Yeah.
It was cool. But to me, Connor, I mean, overall, like this movie, while it did have like, it had themes, I guess, right? It had like, like sort of like lessons you could learn from it. Like it was definitely mostly just like for humor, right? Obviously was the main driver of it. And for me, if this movie didn't have as many celebrities as it did, I feel like it would have been a lot worse. I feel like if you put like, like, I don't want to say normal actors, but like less known, less famous actors and actresses in this movie, like, I feel like I would not have like enjoyed it really at all. Like, I don't know.
Or if it wasn't like celebrities playing themselves, right? Like if it was just celebrities.
Because that's just same old,
like actors just playing like celebrities in the world, like fake celebrities,
Yeah, I agree. So, to me, it would have been a lot worse if that wasn't the case. I mean, it was, but it was fine for a comedy movie. I'd say it was solid, but overall, I just feel like these types of movies in general have too much like the humor is like too crude for me sometimes, and like I feel like it's just like such like a predictable plot sometimes that I just can't get behind like the movie that much. But I do agree with you. I like how they played themselves. I thought that was neat. It's really unique, and I liked how many famous people there were in it. So Like I would
Yeah.
probably give this like honestly I'd probably give this like a 78 or something.
Okay.
Something like that. Like
Okay.
it was fine. Like there were some cool moments. Cool that there were all the
Yeah.
celebrities. You know, it was fun at times, but
Yeah.
eh,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? Because if you're like looking at this film from the just the premise perspective, like the premise is really good. You have these celebrities playing each other and the world is ending. At least I think that that's a really like interesting kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the way that they execute it is not bad. It just doesn't work for me. Like I think the way that you're describing it. I mean, some parts work for me. Like I did think there were a lot of funny scenes, like when you throw the knife or like the exorcism scene. Like those are funny. But a lot of the humor, yeah, it's just like over the top and like unnecessary. Like, oh, like when Jonah Hill's like vomiting all over like
that was disgusting.
Seth Rogen and James Franco.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what that wasn't even funny. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It just wasn't funny.
I do actually, yeah, I do think that there are substantial themes and messages in here, like surrounding like, you know, genuinely being like kind to others and, you know, valuing your relationships and things like that. And I think that the humor a lot of the times furthers those messages, but sometimes it's humor just for the sake of trying to get people to laugh, which is fine. But I mean, like, you know, I don't really like when movies like try to just appeal to the lowest common denominator, right? You know, they just try and do something that will get the most people to watch it.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I mean, I get that film is about like making money and stuff, but you know, and this is not like a typical comedy that like most people would go see either. And I do like the creativity behind it. You know, the special effects are okay, but yeah, and I think the storyline was okay too. There were a couple of slow moments, like when they're just kind of lagging about the house, and I think the ending was kind of predictable. But I mean, I think the actors did a great job, and I think that there were it had a good overall concept, and I think that the writing in some individual scenes was really good too. So.
Okay, so
yeah,
if you had to put a number on it,
I would probably give it a 73%.
Did I really give a higher score than you? Wow. Okay. You made it sound better than I did. You know, when I give it a 78.
Did I really? I feel like I said a lot of negatives.
You did. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I have my own bias, but I wanted to say another thing about this movie, and it's that you mentioned like there are some good themes in this movie, which like there are like some good underlying themes in this movie, but in messages, right? Moreover, like I feel like if you're looking for messages from a movie, like we've watched ones that have better, like more obvious, or not more obvious, but better written messages. I just feel like if you're looking for messages and like you know, kind of like lessons from a film, like this isn't the film to go looking for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's true.
While they do try to put it in there, like,
I mean, if you're looking for a comedy that also has a message in it, this is like not a bad option. I just think that in order to get there, you have to get through a lot of gratuity, which I'm not a big fan of. And also, and you also have to kind of put up with like an okay story. It's not like the best story ever, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. But, you know, I guess, you know, with that, you know, that does it for this film. This is the end.
Yes, a bit different from what we normally.
A bit different, you know, Connor. If we're gonna go in this direction, you know, maybe I'll point us towards some other films that are, you know, more gratuitous, you know, like this.
Oh gosh.
Maybe I'll do another one sometime.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it'll be a while. You know, I think it's good that we did a movie that both of us don't really care for. You know, a genre that both of us don't care for, you know, have a different perspective, you know, other than just like, oh, it was a great film. So, you know, but I think that just about does it, Connor, unless you have any final thoughts.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be choosing a very different movie next time. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I have a movie in mind.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to it. And I will be choosing a movie next week. It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one. I think I already know what I'm going to choose. So it'll be
Yes, sir.
it'll be a fun one. But with that, we will wrap up this podcast. Thank you everyone for watching or listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode. So we'll see you all later.
Bye.